Alright, so today I am making a video about the Fisher AM/FM stereo synthesized tuner model FM-660, and this tuner is part of a set that I purchased from eBay that included the Fisher Studio standard integrated amp. I think it was the CA880. I'll show you that in a minute. Which is all a matching style, and it also included the matching cassette deck. And I've already made a series of videos about the amp, which I'm about to test. So this is the amplifier. I've already done a repair to it, but I'm about to hook them up to my my Bose 901s up there and give them a listen. I'll give the amp a listen. It's 100 watts per channel, the amp, and I'm curious to see how well those 100 watts can deal with the massively power-hungry Bose. So, and this is the amplifier. Go back into the workshop here, and I really like the style. Sorry for the background noise here. I'm in the basement in my workshop, and the air conditioner, it's hot as heck here today in Virginia, and the air conditioner is running, and it kind of makes that noise in the background. So I really like the style of these components. They have a thick aluminum faceplate. And you know, they're mostly all black with chrome knobs, and when they're all sitting together, you know, with the amp on the bottom and the tuner in the middle and the cassette deck on top, they really look neat, and it really is a throwback to the early 80s. And back then this would be considered mid-grade gear, I guess. Definitely not high-end, but definitely not the cheap stuff you would buy at Kmart or any of the other cheap junk stores they had back then. So this tuner, I'm about to turn it on, get it ready to see if it works. I always record things when I first do them, so hopefully the thing doesn't blow up on me here, but I don't expect it to. This tuner features, here you have the up and down tuning button, up and down and up for tuning either AM or FM. It has auto or manual tuning. Manual, I'll go through that when I turn it on. Has a stereo mono switch, and then it has station memories, and that's it. Very basic, very fundamental. And let me get the back side. On the back side you have an AM antenna that pops out, and then you have hookups for two different FM antennas, either a 75 ohm, which is usually a coax cable that goes to it, or no, that's here nor there. You have 75 ohm antenna and a 300 ohm antenna input. The 300 ohm input is usually those wires, those two wires that kind of go up together in a plastic sleeve, then separate out into a T. And then you have ground, and then you have a jack for an external AM antenna. But this right here is an AM antenna, so you could get some reception without an external antenna. And then you have your outputs right there, and then you have your power cord right there. So it's very basic, not a whole lot going on. And so today I have, just to test this thing, I have the tuner hooked up with the phono jacks to an amplifier that I have right here. It's my test bench amplifier, and then that amplifier is in turn hooked up to these Panasonic thrusters up there. Those are my test speakers that I use on the bench here. And since I'm way back in a dungeon here in the basement, I'm going to need at least an FM antenna. So what I have here is the 300. I happen to have a 75 ohm antenna. So I have these wires hooked up through a makeshift thing here that hooks into the coax cable that goes into this little electronic amplified FM antenna. Who makes that thing? Looks like Antop amplified indoor antenna, and it has power going to it. It has a built-in amplifier, RF amplifier, and that's pretty much it. So I expect, I have not opened this up yet, haven't looked inside of it, haven't done anything. So I expect first, don't even have the amp on yet, so let's go ahead and turn it on and make sure nothing sizzles or fries. And when you turn it on, there's the nice vacuum fluorescent display of numbers there. It has a signal strength meter and has a little stereo button there. I guess when you go to manual tuning, I don't know why that manual is not lighting up. I'm clicking auto and manual. Maybe there's a bulb out. And then you have a memory light that's not lit up right now. Maybe when you program the memory, that light comes on, and when you push a button, it goes off, I suppose. Okay. Don't know why the manual light's not lighting up. Maybe a bulb out. If that's the case, we'll have to deal with that. Alright, so now that it's on, geez, I had a station with good signal strength. I don't know. Gonna have to find one now. So I'm gonna select FM and gonna roll through here and find something with there's something with some signal strength right there. Oops. Gotta get used to the up and down buttons. Okay, so whatever this station is, 99.7, I got a high signal strength and the stereo light came on. So let's go ahead and turn the amp on.
Tractor, I know what you're doing.
No, it ain't.
So I'm getting something.
Oh, that's right.
Alright. So stereo mono. That works. I can tell it's going in and out from stereo to mono. Let's try to find a better station here. Okay, I want to be on auto tune so that it finds the next available station. Alright. Can't find a very strong station. I'm so far back, I'm going to have to take this out near the window. There's a full strength right there. Alright. So it appears to be in perfect working order, except for that manual auto lamp right there, which I think I might want to get that fixed before I hook this up into the system. So what I'm going to do, this thing's working pretty good. I'm going to take the top off and figure out how to change that lamp. I'll probably have to order a lamp. But this is going to look really pretty. It's going to look really nice when it's stacked with the Fisher integrated amp, and then when I finally get around, I've got the cassette deck. It's probably going to be minimal light down here, but yeah, you can't really tell. I've got the cassette deck down here with the cover off, and I've got the cassette tray open so that I can clean the heads. I haven't done that yet. The heads are really filthy. They're so dirty, I'm a little concerned that the thing's even going to work right. They look oxidized and dirty, so that's the next project. But this one here, I'm going to go ahead and open her up and see if I can pull that bulb and test the continuity, or test the bulb to see if it's indeed burned out, or maybe I'm just doing something wrong. I don't have an owner's manual or a user's manual for this. You go ahead and keep it on manual, see if anything ever lights up there as I tune. No, that's a burned out bulb. Okay, I'll go ahead and get this thing opened up and let's take a look. It'll be fun to look inside. I'm kind of an amplifier person. I enjoy fixing and tinkering with amplifiers. I'm never really was fond of tinkering with tuners. It's a whole different ball game. I know how they work and I know the fundamentals of their operation, but if there was a problem with the circuitry, I'd really have to get a schematic and study it probably for a long time just to be able to trace the signal path and figure out what's going on. But thankfully in this case the tuner works fine. It seems to. I'll test the FM and AM reception more when I get this thing hooked up to the amplifier and when I'm closer to a window, which I should be able to get excellent reception with that amplified antenna. Okay, I'm gonna hit pause here and open it up. Alright, so I'm back with this issue of the burnt out bulb, and pull the cover off the tuner, and I've had to access the bulb to remove a couple of connectors from down here, and that's okay, it's easy to do. And I pulled the bulb out, and that's real easy to do. They're inserted into these little ports here with this little rubber grommet, and on this bulb, which is the what was that? That was the manual versus automatic tuning bulb. I did a visual inspection of the interior of the bulb, and it looks like the filament is separated, so the bulb would be burned out. Pulled the grommet back a little bit, and went to the corresponding Fisher amplifier manual because it uses the same bulbs, and found out that it was 8 volt 200 milliamp. And so well, I had an idea. These things are probably still available. However, in my corresponding Fisher integrated amplifier, in order to fix it, I had to bypass the tape monitor switch, and I know that there's a tape monitor bulb in there that's no longer needed, and it probably still works. So I think I'm going to take that bulb out of the integrated amp and insert it into here. But first I want to test this bulb, and then I'll go ahead and pull that one and insert the good bulb into here, again because it's not needed in the Fisher amplifier. So first, well, I'm going to go ahead and disconnect or clip this bulb out and give it a test. Try to put 8 volts on there and see if it lights up. I don't think it will, because it really appears to be, the filament appears to be open circuited just from visual inspection. And of course I'll test the new one too before I go through the process of soldering it in line. By the way, these bulbs are the wires are built into the bulb, so there's no, it's not like it doesn't have a base or a little base that you plug them into. They're literally built into the wires, so going to have to do a little soldering here, a little wire stripping to replace that. So go ahead and snip that and test it, and then if it doesn't work, go ahead and remove the tuner here and bring out the integrated amp and pull that bulb from that one. Okay, so I've got the bulb hooked up to a DC power supply, and got 7.9, roughly 8 volts, and nothing. So that confirms it. This bulb is burned out. So now I've got to pull one out of my Fisher integrated, and I think I'll just switch the bulb so this one fills the space where the other one came out of. So guess I'll do that next. Alright, so here's the Fisher integrated. Already made a series of videos on this one. It's been fixed, but the bulb that I don't need is that one that says tape right there. That one is the one that seems to come on when the tape monitor switch is depressed. And that's the switch that I disabled. So there's the bulb bank right there, and that would be this guy right here. This is usually, might be a two-handed job, but I'll see if I can get it out. Yeah, okay, popped right out. So there it is. Just doing a quick visual. It looks like everything is connected. I mean, not connected, but it looks like the filament is not open circuited. Yeah, looks good. So I'm gonna go ahead and unzip tie this cluster here and cut this and pop it on the power supply and see if that bulb works. Okay, so I've got it out, got it cut, and you know what just occurred to me? These things should have occurred to me earlier, and I'm glad it occurred to me before I turned this power supply on. Is that I'm guessing, and I don't know for certain, but it doesn't matter at this point. Guessing the I'm not sure, but I think these bulbs may be 8-volt. I don't know if they're DC or AC. I'm not sure what this amp is supplying to this bulb, whether it's DC or AC. So if it is 8 volts AC, RMS, peak to peak, whatever it is, then I wouldn't want to crank the DC power supply up to 8 volts. I want to go a lot less than that. So I'm starting out with the voltage at minimum here. Okay, and so we're starting out with 0 volts, and I'm going to turn up the power supply just enough. Okay, boom, it works. See that? That's 2 volts DC. And verified that bulb works. So, you know, if for some reason that bulb was spec'd out is being supplied by 8 volts AC, well then that being RMS or peak to peak, I'm not sure how it would be spec'd out, but I don't want to go the full DC for fear of overloading the bulb. I guess if it was 8 volts RMS, then 8 volts DC would be the equivalent of that. But I'm just not sure, but I only needed a couple of volts there to verify that the bulb works, and that's all I want to do. I don't want to crank it up too high and burn this bulb out. I'm just thinking out loud here. I'm making these videos that are not scripted, and I just kind of think about these things as I go along. So what I want to do is go ahead and, just to fill the space here, put the bad bulb back in. And that is probably going to be a two-handed job. It's really kind of challenging to get them back in. Easy to get out, kind of hard to get back in. See, I'm not going to be able to do it. I'm going to have to put the camera down. Okay, back. So, went ahead and put the bad bulb back in the tape monitor light and clipped them close, because that's a bad bulb and it can never be used again. Re-zip tied the bundle of wires there and capped off the old wires. I don't know if you can see it, with heat shrink tubing. There's 2 little black things coming out, just so they could never touch anything and short its own power supply out or damage any other circuitry. And they're kind of zip tied nice and tidy there, sticking out away from any of the circuitry, so that should never be a problem. And they'll always be there and available if I ever wanted to put a good bulb in here, which is probably not going to be the case, but somebody might want to in the future. Again, this is the integrated amp that I already made videos about, that I hardwired. You can see that bottom switch, and below those 3 white switches, that very bottom switch in the switch bank. Had to disassemble that tape monitor switch and solder bridge it to hardwire it to bypass that, because that was causing essentially one channel of the amp to be out. So I'm going to put this back together and then return to the tuner and put the good bulb in the tuner. Okay, I've got a soldering iron warming up there, and So here's the bulb, and I made an inline splice and made sure to first put on a piece of heat shrink tubing right here. You can see it sliding around, which is should be a large enough diameter, unshrunk, to fit over the splice right there once solder is on it. So I'm going to go ahead and solder that up, heat shrink it, and then do the same for the other lead. And we'll see what it looks like when it's done. And then the big test. Alright, so I haven't heat shrunk that first tube yet, and I did this online splice right here, and that's what it looks like. And of course, dummy me, well, what did I forget? I forgot to put the heat shrink on the wire before splicing. But I'm not going to go through that again, so I'm going to try to I might just use electrical tape, even though it's unprofessional, but this is for me. I'm not doing it for somebody else. Or I might try cutting a piece of heat shrink down its length and putting it over and shrinking it and then taping it after that, something like that. But it definitely has to be shielded. It definitely has to be insulated, so I've got to do something. Darn it. Really wanted to use heat shrink on that. Oh well. I'll come back when I finish up this, and then we'll give it a test, see if the bulb works. Alright, so I went ahead and redid it. I cut it. See, one line's a little shorter than the other, but I just wanted to do it professionally. So there's my splices, and there's the bulb, and let us see if it works. Alright, so there it is. That's the bulb, and it was the auto manual. So in is auto tune, manual is out, and so at this point, go ahead and unplug her and go ahead and insert that bulb back where it goes, zip tie it up, make it look nice and tidy, and finish this job up, and go ahead and mate the tuner with the corresponding amp, and test it near a window, so I can really see how this thing pulls in stations. Okay, so here's the final product. Bulb in, connectors back, zip tie. This one guy's a little bit long because I made him extra long so that I could work with the soldering and the shrink wrapping. So that's that. Bulb fixed. Put the cover back on, and maybe I'm going to call it a day on this particular video and get back to coupling the tuner up with the amp and listening to them through the Bose 901s, and then tackle the cassette deck, which I'm a little concerned about because of the shape of the oxidation on the heads and the pinch roller. And I have some cleaning solution, and I'm just gonna make a video about that. Well, you know what? Before I call it a day, let's go ahead and plug this in. I always like to retest things, of course, after you install, do the final install and the tucking away of wires and zip tying and all that, just to make sure nothing happened. Okay, so tuner's on, and there's the auto manual. Good, auto manual switch, and I already verified everything else works. All the other bulbs work, so we're good. Excellent. Off, unplug, and I'll be back later with another video about the system as a whole and about the cassette deck. Ciao.